CNN's Van Jones says Biden seemed detached from reality during ABC interview. That's just a nice way of saying that Biden is delusional because he won't drop out of this race. He thinks that everything is great. He thinks that he can beat Trump. He has his crackhead son in his ear telling him to stay in. He has Nurse Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, so-called Dr. Jill Biden, telling him to stay in. So of course he's detached. He's delusional. He's a feeble old man, and they're using him to get what they want, which is elder abuse. It's just wrong. So we're gonna play the clip of Van Jones talking about this. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon, and that's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. All right, so let's talk about this news now. This comes from InfoWars. This is the second InfoWars article I did today. And they report that CNN political commentator Van Jones said Joe Biden seemed detached from reality during his ABC News interview with George Stephanopoulos on Friday. I'm not going to really read what he said. I'm just going to play it here. Here we go.
Our political experts, and I appreciate having you back, Van Jones and others. Van, let me begin with you. We did hear from the president tonight more of what his supporters complained they did not see during the debate, and that is making the case for his record. He talked about the jobs figures out today. He talked about character as distinguished from Donald Trump. He spoke about
the job figures. It happens time and time again. It comes in and they say the initial numbers are great. Oh, it's over. It's more than we expected, such and such. And then when the real numbers come out, it's way lower. It is way worse than what they say. So I don't know why anybody would tout or pay attention to any of the initial job numbers at the beginning of the new month. Why would we wait until those real numbers come in? Because they do it time and time again. Every time it comes, they revise the number. But I digress. Let's go back to this clip.
Expanding NATO, standing up to Putin, getting support for Ukraine. Did you hear enough of that? Because one of the key questions going into this was, does he still have the skill to be the party salesman, right? Which you got to be in a campaign if you're going to win that campaign. Did you hear that from him tonight in that interview?
I saw more of it. Look, the presidency, it turns out, is a speaking role. It's a speaking role. You got to be able to talk. You got to be able to do interviews. You got to be able to give speeches. You got to be able to debate. It's a speaking role. Everybody goes, well, that's not. No, yes, of course, you got to be able to make decisions behind closed doors. But that's the presidency is a special role. It's a speaking role. I thought today you saw.
And Biden has a terrible time speaking. Let's hear what he said. Let's see what he says. I'm sorry. We go back a few seconds. Let's hear what he says.
No, yes, of course, you got to be able to make decisions behind closed doors. But that's the presidency is a special role. It's a speaking role. I thought today you saw more of the Biden that you could feel some confidence in, because it's the typical, his voice a little soft, it's a little stumbly bumbly.
Even he still continued to cape for him. He's still coping for him, and it was not a great interview. I don't know why they're pretending like it was. Like, just because it wasn't terrible, I think that's a win, though, because it wasn't terrible. I don't know.
But nothing alarming, nothing that would panic, nothing would have you run out the door. The problem is, on the biggest night of the campaign, that guy was not on the stage. So I do think that today he did better. I do think that today it's useful. The problem that you have is that the stuff that he said about the campaign is just not factual. And what you love about Biden in general is that big heart and he cares, but you don't want somebody who's detached from reality. I understand what Gary Mindy was saying, that you wouldn't go out there and say, yeah, we're losing. But you have to acknowledge some of the reality. And I think the problem that you have, the panic happening in the party, is people think this guy is detached from reality. He's got a guard of people around him that won't tell him the truth, and he's just being stubborn. And I think he did not help himself on that point tonight. He's no longer hiding Biden. Give him credit for that. He came out.
Right.
He talked. He did the interview. That's good. But he still is not dealing with the reality of how bad this is.
David Axelrod, is that as much a wrap on the president?
And it still was a total. The interview still was. It was controlled. He probably knew what the questions were going to be ahead of time. I just did a video on that, talking about radio hosts saying that they gave the questions beforehand, before the interview. So it was more controlled. I would like to see him in a press gaggle, answering questions off the cuff and stuff like that, like Trump can still do. Which he hasn't done all of this year, sat in front of the journalists and just field questions off the cuff without having note cards and things like that. Like, I mean, be for real. We know that this man cannot run the United States in this condition. We know that. I don't care what Van Jones is trying to cape or trying to cope about, but he did admit that he's detached from reality. Again, just a nicer way of saying that this man is delusional right now, thinking that he can beat Trump even in the face of all these terrible polls that has been coming out. But he said, quote, "You have to acknowledge some of the reality. I think the problem that you have, the panic happening in the party, is people think this guy has detached from reality. He has a guard of people around him." That's right. He's living in this bubble, and he really do think he can win. And Senator Mark Warner, Democrat from Virginia, is also reportedly attempting, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the whole line. Indeed, 5 House Democrats so far have called on Biden to drop out of the 2024 race this week. And Senator Mark Warner is also reportedly attempting to assemble a group of Democratic senators to ask Biden to exit the presidential race. I think I did a video on that one. I'm not sure. But I do so many videos throughout the week. But some key House and Senate Democrats are planning meetings next week, with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries expected to convene a virtual meeting with Democrat committee ranking members on Sunday to discuss Biden's path forward. But again, they have to ask him to step down. They can't make him step down because he's pretty much already the nominee. They can't insert anyone else other than Harris, who's just as incompetent as Joe Biden. But we're going to keep reporting this and see how this plays out. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.